Like your dad's hard drive, the world of small SUVs can be a dark, scary, confusing and sometimes oddly erotic place to be. But I've got a shorthand for it. You buy the Ford Puma if you want a small SUV that's fun to drive, but for everything else I tend to recommend the Peugeot 2008. I reviewed it earlier this year on the Motorpoint channel and it just did everything pretty well and it was stylish. It was a bit different, I really liked it, but now Peugeot's given it a lick of paint, a facelift, so I've got one in to live with for a week to find out if they've made it worse by changing the badge and a few other bits. Probably not. Now, because I do very sensible car reviews, we need to talk about price. The Peugeot 2008 now starts at about £24,000 for an entry-level version, which is called the active version. It goes up to about £30,000. This is an electric one. Yeah, it's quite expensive, the electric one. It adds £12,000 to whatever trim level you want over the 1.2 petrol. This is a top spec GT one. It costs £42,000 after options, or just under £41,000 basic. Bear in mind, an Audi Q2 costs from £28,000. This thing has serious premium ambition. So yeah, let's dig into it and find out if it can justify the price tag. Now, I will fight anyone that says this isn't the most stylish small SUV. I'm not very good at fighting, so please don't take me up on that. But it's got this new stylish grille. It's got the new Peugeot Shield badge, which I quite like now. It really does look more premium. It says 2008 up here, just in case you forget which car you've bought. But you've got Peugeot's now iconic, I would say, claw LED daytime running lights as well. And you've got full LEDs on this model as well. I just think it looks really, really good, even in slightly boring grey, but sparkly grey paint. As part of the facelift, Peugeot took their big onion soup of engines, gave it a stir up and put some new bread and cheese on top and changed things up. This electric version's got a new 156 horsepower motor on the front axle, a 51 kilowatt hour usable battery, so it's got 252 miles of range. On paper, expect closer to 220 miles in the real world. And you can charge it on a fast charger up to 100 kilowatts, so you'll do 0 to 80% in something like half an hour. But as I said, it is expensive. Not too heavy though. Still only just over 1.5 tons for the electric version, which is quite impressive as far as these things go. And the only other engine option is the petrol, the 1.2 3-cylinder with either 100 or 130 horsepower with either a manual gearbox or an automatic, an 8-speed. And there's no 4-wheel drive option either. Well done for making it through that number soup bit of the review. I would give you a badge if I could that says "J'aime le saucisse du pantalon," but I don't have any. But anyway, the back of the updated 2008, I really like it. It's got these new wider looking tail light design. They look really sharp, and at night it really does stand out. You get a reversing camera as standard only on top spec GT models. And if you go one down, you get front and rear parking sensors. And on the entry level one, you only get rear parking sensors. The boot is what I really like about this car. It's 434 litres, which is pretty good going, but it's also the same space even on the electric version. It's got some clever features, such as a boot floor that you can clip up into place so you can actually access the underfloor storage. And in this one, you've got Bago charging cables, but there's actually loads of space under there for storing anything you want to keep out of sight. And you can flip the back seats down to give you an even bigger boot space. And I've forgotten the number of that, so it's appearing on the screen over my face now. One of the reasons I always recommend the 2008 to most people is because the cabin is just way more stylish than in any of the other competition. I include the Audi Q2 in that. This is just a bit quirkier and a little bit more interesting. You do have to make do with Peugeot's small i-cockpit steering wheel, but it works in this because you can easily see over it. And in this top spec one, you've got 3D dials on the digital dashboard. It's like a hologram effect. You do get digital dashboard on all models, but you don't get the 3D-ness on the lesser trims. You do, however, get the big 10-inch screen on all models. It's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's pretty good to use, to be honest. You don't get sat-nav included on the entry-level version, but that's fine. Just use the app on your phone. And you've got a few little shortcut buttons, hapticky ones on the top there. They're not actually haptic at all. You can't tell when you press them. You have to look. So your heated seat, the home button for the screen. The screen, I would say, is a bit harder to navigate than in bigger models like the 308 and the 408, because they get a little screen of shortcut buttons there, which this doesn't get. You do get physical shortcuts here for your climate control though, so that's okay. Got a wireless phone charger in the depths down there, USB-Cs, and yeah, a couple of cup holders and a big storage space under my phone if I move that. There we go. My only real cabin niggles are that the glove box is half width, as in most French cars, because half it is fuse box, and the door bins aren't lined with felt, so stuff does rattle around a little bit. But otherwise, I'm going to give this cabin 9 Tim Roadies out of 10 for being very good. The 2008 caters pretty well for your backseat passengers too. I've actually got enough room in here to sit behind my own driving position. I'm 6'3". I've got a bit of knee room. That is hard plastic, so if I was taller, I'd be getting hemorrhoids on my kneecaps. I've got room under the seat for my feet, and it doesn't feel cramped at all. I really quite like it. I have got a curious mix of USB-A and USB-C sockets down here, and I've got a small plasticky door bin. Things will rattle around in there. I would say, in the previous version, it will be the same in this. Fitting a child seat is okay. There's not much room to get a big base in if you've got a baby seat. You have to put this seat forward, put the seat in, then squish the seat backwards a little bit, which isn't ideal. Right, let's go for a quick drive in the e-2008. The small steering wheel is actually quite helpful for doing 3-point turns. I've just had to spin the car around where I've been filming all of that stuff. And yeah, it's just takes a little bit of getting used to that small steering wheel, but in this, because you're sitting high up in an SUV, it's very easy to see over it. I had the 308 in for a review the other day. That's a hatchback, and I found it much harder to get in the right seating position. But in this, I just find it quite natural after a while. Now, this car is just very pleasant to drive, especially in electric form. It's very relaxing because it's not too heavy. It doesn't thud like some electric cars do over potholes and things like that. It's not like super cushy, but it's certainly way less floaty and boaty than some EVs. So although it's expensive, it does drive nicely. Now the petrol version's even lighter again. That engine I quite like, that 1.23 cylinder. It feels gutsy, it feels punchy. Even the 100 horsepower version feels enough if you mostly do town driving. The 130 horsepower option with the automatic gearbox would probably be my pick if you do a mix of motorways and things like that. Refinement in this car is good actually, speaking of motorways. At 70 miles an hour, you get a bit of tyre roar and a little bit of wind noise, but nothing out of the ordinary, and it feels like a grown-up car. It feels like a kind of 3008 really, next size up. Hello cyclists. Gosh, you're all very luminescent, that's good. Luminescent? Fluorescent. But yeah, very pleasant car to drive. Should point out you only get the 456 horsepower in this electric one if you put it into sport mode, and that does make it faster, makes it pretty brisk. It's still a 9-second 0 to 60 time, but in the mid-range, when you put your foot down, when you're already moving, it's quite quick. But that makes the steering all heavy because you're in sport mode, and apparently that's what you want when you're in sport mode. I just want light steering with all of the power. Now, some of the other stuff that I've not mentioned in this car, this one's got optional Alcantara seats with a massage function, which is quite nice, and it's very nice on a day like today to have a hot massage seat on the go. Again, that adds to the expense of the car. You also get active cruise control, radar cruise as standard. Lane keeping assist, I think, is part of an option pack on this one. But yeah, all the standard safety stuff is there. So it can go down to 0 and kind of drive for you in motorway traffic jams, which is always quite relaxing if you've got a hellish journey around the M25. It's just a very complete package. It's a very complete package. I can sit here with my phone wirelessly charging, with wireless CarPlay, going about my business, doing long drives, fitting stuff in the boot. What's not to like? Anyway, that sounds like a conclusion. This isn't the conclusion bit. We're going to go to the conclusion bit now. Well, I'm not actually. I'm going to go to an electric car charger because I've nearly run out of juice. So to sum up, Peugeot's little collection of nips and tucks have done no harm to the 2008. The cabin I still think is nice. I love that it's got wireless CarPlay and the big screen as standard now. It's also just pleasant to drive. It's comfortable enough, it's fast enough, it's refined enough, yet it also has a decent boot. It's still got reasonable back seat space so long as you're not taking big baby seats, and I still think it looks pretty cracking. My only real niggles are the price. The electric one is horrifically expensive, £42,000. A Tesla Model 3 is £2,000 less than this, which is balmy, and I would say EVs in general do depreciate quite heavily initially in the first year, Peugeot ones as well. So yeah, it's a really good car. I'd perhaps get the petrol one for my life, but I think it's great. I think it's probably just a better all-rounder than most of its rivals, and more stylish. Like me and my black jeans spattered with mud. Didn't come here for fashion advice, did you? Definitely not from me. But anyway, thank you ever so much for watching this. If you've made it this far, thank you ever so much. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new, and go down to the comments and leave me the French phrase for, your car is very pretty, but I've made it smell of onions. Sorry, Peugeot. Had a big risotto last night. Look at that house up there. That is lovely. Go and live on a hill. Although this is Surrey, so that's almost certainly £3 million. I'm not even exaggerating. That is a Bugatti Chiron of a house. Bit slower. I'm not sure which I would have. That's another great French car, that Bugatti Chiron. If you've not seen that, if for some reason you're watching my Peugeot 2008 review and you want to see me review a €4 million Bugatti Chiron, click up there. So would I pick the Peugeot 2008 over a 1,500 horsepower Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport? Now, having driven them both, I have to say the ride in the 2008 is a bit more comfortable, it's a little bit more refined, hasn't quite got the low down shove of the Chiron's 8-litre W16, whatever it is, quad turbo. But you know what? This is £42,000. The Chiron's £4 million more, so yeah. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to stop my GoPro's rolling. I've parked in some mud. Oh no. Goodbye, black jeans. It's been nice knowing you. Ooh.